Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Pandora Hearts episode 9. So, it has been quite a while since we've last reacted to Pandora Hearts. We did episodes 7 and 8 back in November of last year. And we put it off for a number of reasons, one of which being that I felt like I needed to take a break from the series. And so now we're back, and we might not be back for long. I know that sounds disappointing and all for those of you who might be fans of the series and all, and might have enjoyed my reactions back when I did them last year. But since the last time we reacted in this almost a year, I have found out a couple of notable things about this series. Mostly that it doesn't end. It doesn't have like an actual conclusion to it. What I mean. Like, it does end technically, but that's all it does. It just ends. It doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't, like, the story never finishes, and there's no other anime adaptations for this. It's just this series. The manga goes further and everything, of course, but the anime just kind of stops mid-story. And I kind of wish I wouldn't have found this out, because that does very much affect how I'm going to feel about this series going forward. Because the issue here is that if I know a series is not going to have like a proper conclusion, then unless I'm really invested in that series, it's not going to be something that I'm super invested in continuing. A big example, Hunter x Hunter 2011. Or I guess the 99 series, but I didn't actually watch that. But the 2011 series has no real conclusion to it. Like, yes, it finishes off the arc that it's in, but it doesn't actually conclude the story of the series, because the manga was still ongoing and is still technically ongoing, even though it very rarely gets updated these days due to the author's health issues, which completely fair. I'm not blaming anyone for that. I'm definitely not blaming the author, but still, just saying. But because of that, the anime does just end. It doesn't conclude the story, and in fact, it actually sets up a lot for the future. There's still a lot that isn't explained. There's a lot that isn't answered. There's a lot that is just like kind of left hanging. And that is a little disappointing. But the only reason I was able to continue and get all the way through Hunter x Hunter is for two reasons. One, because I was watching with Rough Senpai's reactions and I was enjoying his reactions to the series. On top of two, I just was really invested in Hunter x Hunter. I was really invested in the series and the characters. And some people might say, like, oh, then shouldn't you not want to see it just end? If you're so invested in everything going on, shouldn't you be upset that it just kind of ends? And it's like, I get your point. But if I'm invested enough in the series, it makes me want to continue still. And on top of that, like, yeah, I'm upset that I'm kind of upset that there's no more, but there's also a reason here that's a perfectly understandable reason that in the end, I can't get too upset over. But with Pandora Hearts, I think from what I heard, it was just due to the series not doing well enough to warrant a second season or something like that. I don't know for sure if that's the case. I think that's just what I've heard. And I don't know how it ends, by the way. I don't know how the actual Pandora Hearts manga ends. I don't know how this anime adaptation finishes with this season. I just know it's not complete. So I don't know any big spoilers, luckily. But like I said, the fact that I know this is still going to heavily affect my interest. Because I'll be honest, while I enjoy Pandora Hearts from what I watched before, it's not one of those series that I would be considered super invested in. I enjoy it. I had fun with it. There was some interesting stuff about it, but it's not that kind of series where I just feel like I really am excited to get into more. You know what I mean? It's one of those shows I just feel like kind of lukewarm about. And unfortunately, that leads to an issue. See, I wanted to bring it back and I wanted to give it a chance, which I am doing here. I'm giving it a chance to impress me. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. Based on, again, previous experience with this series so far, the first 8 episodes, it was good, it was enjoyable, but it didn't impress me. It didn't invest me into it. So I really don't think it's going to here. So I want to say right off the bat that it's actually not only just possible, but it's pretty likely I will be dropping this after this episode. I know that sounds really harsh. I know that sounds like really dumb, even. Like, why would you bring this back just for 1 week only to drop it again? Because, again, like I said, I want to give it a chance. I want to at least give it that much to see if it can impress me. But I'm not going to keep pushing, like with any series I drop. The big thing is, I'm not going to keep forcing myself through episodes after episodes if I'm not enjoying it, or in this case, if I know that there's no actual conclusion to the story. And with what this story is, it's like it's something I want a conclusion on. With what's going on with Alice being trapped and the illegal contractors information and stuff we got with episode 8, which I briefly glimpsed at the synopsis for. Just to kind of remind myself the gist of what happened, and everything with the time travel aspect of it and all. It's just there's a lot of good ideas and stuff with it, but it's definitely a series I feel needs another adaptation. It needs kind of the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Fruits Basket treatment, where it's like, okay, we're going to give you a second remake adaptation and hopefully it's going to be better. Well, in those cases, yeah, definitely better, but still. Um, so it's like this definitely needs that. It definitely 100% needs another adaptation that is going to actually go further and conclude the story. Even if it ended up being an anime only conclusion, I would be fine with that because, as I've stated, I don't read manga, so I'm not too worried about how it remains completely accurate with the source material. I want an ending. That's my biggest hang up right now. I want there to actually be a conclusion. The fact that there's not is what is bothering me. So when I'm saying that it's very likely I will be dropping it after this episode, it's not out of any dislike for the series. It's just I don't want to put forth my time and effort into reacting to a series that isn't going to pay off in any way. I don't feel like that's fair to myself as the reactor or to any of you as my viewers. I don't feel like it's fair to put forth that time in something that doesn't really have a point in the end. And again, I'm sorry to all of you who like this series. Because again, there's a lot about it I like, but it's just I can't do that to myself or to you guys. it would bother me too much. So, yeah, we're going to watch this episode. We're going to give it this chance. If it does really impress me, like really impress me, we'll continue for now. But if not, I do have to drop it. And again, I know it sucks, like bring it back for 1 week, especially with the new schedule switching around and all. But it's something that I feel like I need to do. I need to figure this out right away because I don't want to force myself to go through all that. But I also don't want to just like, not put this up at all. I said we would get back to it. That was almost a year ago. I want to keep to that. I want to return to it and give it one last chance. So we'll see. We will see how it goes. Hopefully it goes pretty well. So last time, we learned more about the illegal contractors. We learned about why those two, I don't remember what the group they're called is from, or they're from is called. I'd mix that up. I don't remember what the group that they're from is called, but we learned why they haven't seemed to age. And I think Oz saved some kid, if what I remember right, and what I remember reading from, again, the brief glance of the synopsis I did when getting ready for this. I don't remember all the details, so hopefully it'll cover that. But yeah, I just really wish I hadn't known about this because it wouldn't be affecting me as heavily because I wouldn't know. But the fact that I do know about the fact that this just kind of ends with no conclusion, it sucks. It does. So we'll just see how it goes. We'll just take it as it comes and see what happens with this episode. So, and if you don't want to watch, if you feel like it's a waste of time to watch this because of those reasons, because it's like, oh, it's very likely I'll drop this after, I don't blame you. If you feel like you don't want to watch it because of that, that's completely fair. But yeah, I would ask that you at least check this out for this reaction, if you can and want to. Give it one last shot with me, and we can go from there. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, that episode did almost nothing for me. I'll be completely honest here. That episode, I wouldn't say it was boring. That's the wrong word for it. It's just, I went into this, like I said, wanting this to impress me, hoping that this would impress me, because we were going into this, like, saying that I might be dropping this. In fact, I very likely will be. Because of the entire fact that with it not having an ending, it would just spoil my interest in continuing. And so I laid down the ultimatum. It has to impress me, like really impress me with this episode for me to want to continue. Because like I said in the pre-thoughts, I'm not going to force myself to sit through something I'm not enjoying or that I have reservations about because of the fact that it has no clear ending. I'm not going to force myself to sit through that just to continue the series. But like I said, I wanted to give it one more chance, and it unfortunately wasn't enough. And it's like it's just maybe it's on the bad luck that it was this episode rather than another episode, but it just didn't do anything for me. Like the entire thing of the episode, Oz is talking to this kid, and we have like a flashback about Oz, like I guess kind of really meeting his father. Um, Gil goes to his father to beg him to see Oz at least once, and this is where both Gil and Oz find out that his father is a piece of shit, and that he doesn't see Oz as like a son. He sees him as a mistake, and he wants nothing to do with him. He also slaps around Gil, which is like the ultimate like fuck you move. So yeah, hate him. Um, but aside from that, it's like the rest of the episode was just okay. There's this kid that Oz is kind of connecting to, and then he's mistaken for Oz thinks that because this girl's after him, that he must be like. Eventually, he thinks that he must be an illegal contractor, but no, it's his father. Fight begins. Oz tries to stop Alice to because he doesn't want her to kill the kid's father, and that's it. It's like whoop-de-doo. There was some talk of this Vincent Nightray, who I guess since Gil has taken on the last name of Nightray, is in the within the same family. Plus, based on what Echo had said, um, and other than that, there's just not there wasn't really enough here to interest me, to make me excited to continue. Like even if there wasn't the entire issue with how this series is going to end or not end. Even beside that, this episode still just wasn't good. Well, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. It just was kind of there. It exists, and I don't like to have that apathetic kind of feeling towards anything I'm reacting to. It's like I almost rather want to hate it because at least then I'm feeling something towards it. But with this episode, it's just I just didn't. So yeah, I think it's fairly obvious that we're just gonna drop this. I wanted to give it one more chance, 1 week here, hope for the best. But unfortunately, it's just like I just don't feel like there's anything I can do. I don't feel right continuing it when it's just not going to conclude at all. It just would feel off to me the entire time and would mess with my reactions. And I don't want to do that to myself or to you guys. So I think I have to make this decision here. As much as I would really rather not, I think I have to. So, what is going to replace it? Well, this is a question I had been thinking about like this past weekend and everything, because that's kind of when this entire question was coming up in the first place, when the entire issue of like, should I really even watch this episode if I think I'm going to drop it anyways? All of that was coming up to me this weekend, and so it's like I was trying to figure like if I do end up dropping it, and I'm going to give it one more chance, but if I do end up dropping, which again most likely, what is going to be in its place? Because I have multiple things already set up on my list. I have a whole list of shows that I'm reacting to and that I am going to react to, but it's like because I almost expected Pandora Hearts to last a little longer, or rather wanted it to. The next option in line wasn't fully set yet. I had a few ideas. I have a few things I had been planning for. Um, but I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And so I've decided that the next one we're going to be getting to in this slot, instead of getting to something new, I decided I want to get back to something that I haven't visited in a long time. I wanted to get back to something that I honestly missed. And I feel like it is almost disappointing that I haven't been back to it, because I always told myself I would be. I always told myself I would get back to it eventually, but I haven't watched this series in any form since 2018, April of 2018. It has been 3 years since I've really watched any of this series, outside of like maybe a clip or two here or there. But like I haven't actively watched an episode. And that series that we will be returning to after 3 years is something that I actually did not end off on this channel doing a reaction to, but the last video I posted for this series was a review. But let's just cut to the chase. It's Adventure Time. We will be continuing Adventure Time right where we left off in Season 6. But like I said, the last video I posted was actually a review to Episode 12, I want to say. Let me see, I have it up here. Yeah, Episode 12 of Season 6, which was Ocarina. That was the last Adventure Time episode I saw. Because at that point, after I had finished, after I had like cut it off for the time being on reacting, I was like, oh, I'll probably watch other people's reactions and do some reviews for episodes that I find particularly noteworthy to talk about. And I got to episode 12, and it's like, I just never continued after that. I just never continued. So we will be starting on episode 13. But keep in mind, that means that there will be a few episodes I did not actually react to, because the last reaction I did was to episodes 5 through 8 of the season. So there will be a few episodes in between there that that won't be on reactions. But yeah, I wanted to kind of mention this here and everything and bring this up, just because it has been so long. And I'm excited to get back to it because there are things I know, obviously. It's been years, and the series has ended outside of some specials and everything. The main series has ended. So I do know a couple of things about, well, how the series ends. I don't know all the details. I don't know like everything. And I'll talk more about that when we get back to the episodes next week. But there are a few things I do know. I just was unable to avoid and everything. And honestly, at a certain point, I didn't even know when, if ever I would get back to this, whether reacting or watching on my own. It was only just this past weekend, basically, where I decided, you know what, let's get back to things. Let's get back to some old things that we haven't watched in a while, that we haven't reacted to in a long time. And I would say this is a pretty long time. And I liked Adventure Time. I basically dropped it due to time constraints and stuff like that. So it's like I never dropped it due to not liking the series. I very much liked it. Hell, even looking back on it even looking back on it through these years, I still look back on what I remember of it fondly. Especially the characters. So it's never been an issue with that for me. I just haven't gotten back to it since, but I'm excited to get back to it. It just sucks that it has to come off of such a disappointing reason. The fact that it's coming out of dropping Pandora Hearts because of what I found out sucks. And again, I really wish I hadn't found out about that and we'd just be continuing Pandora Hearts. I really wish that were the case. But again, if it just doesn't have an ending, I just don't feel right continuing it and just forcing myself to sit through something that's not going to pay off. Because the stuff, the storylines that were that I can't speak. That's the big thing I was invested in with Pandora Hearts before. I wanted to see those storylines pay off, especially in regards to Alice. I wanted to see there be conclusive finality to them. Knowing that there's not going to be in this series basically takes away my biggest enjoyment of the show. The fact that there's not going to be a finite ending in this series hurts my overall enjoyment, and I don't want to put myself through that. So I do apologize. I really do. I apologize for bringing this back for only a week. I apologize for having it on the channel banner when I only brought it back for a week. But it's like, I was hoping that one more chance I gave it would pay off. Unfortunately, it didn't. So, c'est la vie. Nothing more I can do about it now. But we will move on. And maybe I'll end up watching more of this series on my own time. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air with me. But maybe I will, and I don't know. Maybe there's something more. Hopefully, this series could get like a reboot. One that will actually give it a conclusion. Again, whether it's according to the manga or even anime original, I don't care. Just something that has a finite conclusion. A reboot, this is definitely one of those series that deserves it. You hear all the time people talking on social media about which anime would you love to see get a reboot the most or get another season the most. And it's like, this one right now honestly comes to mind as the highest for me. Most other anime that ended, it's like I either just don't want another season or I feel like are fine where they're at the moment. And some just will obviously be getting another season at some point. But it's like with this one, I just feel like it needs a reboot. It has so much potential, and it's squandered because the series doesn't deliver on any of it. So, yeah, I'm sorry for everyone who likes this series. Though a lot of people would probably say the manga is better anyway. A lot of people just say that in general for almost anything. I'm not a manga reader. I don't enjoy reading manga, so it's not going to be for me, but I don't know. Maybe one day we'll get blessed with a reboot. That's the only thing we can hope for now. But I hope you're all excited for the return of Adventure Time, nonetheless. I hope you're all going to tune in for that, because I'm definitely excited to get back to that. Get back to more of the greatness with PB and Marceline and Tree Trunks and everyone, really. I love pretty much everyone. I think the only character I was kind of lukewarm on was Lumpy Space Princess, only because she was a bit annoying. But really, I don't hate her. I don't think there's any characters I outright hate in Adventure Time. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But we'll see how that goes as we go through more of it. So, yeah. Like I said, we'll talk more about that when we actually get to the reaction next week. And obviously, I have to change the channel banner again, so that's fun. Luckily, it's easy, and actually, for some reason, fairly fun to update that. But we'll get to that. So, thank you all so much for understanding why I'm choosing to end this reaction series and move on. And thank you all so much for continuing to tune in, nonetheless. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.